This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry, and with me is Tim Parrish and Clemente Lisi. And today we are going to talk about the Stanley Cup Final. I know that was a little while ago, but this is our first podcast episode also in a little while. So we got a little catching up to do on how the 24-25 season winded down. We're also going to talk about Fanatics Fest NYC, which Clemente Lisi bravely went to for 3 days. And then we'll talk about a few other odds and ends. But first, I just want to get the situation report of how we are doing. So, Clemente, I'll start with you. I know you got a lot to say about Fanatics Fest, and we'll save all that good stuff for later. But just overall, how you doing? I mean, you recovered yet? You staying hydrated? Are your feet still sore?
No, I'm recovered. I mean, I was on the cusp of getting like a cold right before Fanatics Fest, and I had a little bit of laryngitis, so I apologize if my voice is not 100%. So I was playing hurt on top of the fact that, you know, Fanatics Fest will hurt you if you're there for the whole 3 days like I was, and so more on that later. But otherwise, I'm good otherwise, and New York's in the middle of a heat wave now, so yeah, staying hydrated is key.
Excellent. All right, well, good to see you again. Good to hear from you again. And Tim, what's up with you?
Pretty standard. Did you need more than that?
I don't know. I thought you'd have
standard.
some witty saying,
I mean, I could throw something out there and
some sarcastic witticism.
Yeah, I could say that I'm as fine as frog's hair, but I'm good. As Clemente said, we're experiencing some heat, as many people are across the country. So,
oh my God, yeah,
generally miserable. Saturday was the first day I went outside and spent some time in the pool. Probably a little too much time because I roasted myself.
Boiled, you're boiled.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: wearing a shirt for the last 3 days has not been my favorite thing, but I put one on for this evening just so I didn't.
We appreciate that.
Therapy.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. I don't want to be the reason you have to go to therapy. So.
Yeah. No, I have enough reasons for that. I don't need another one.
Yeah, I'm well.
That's good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm happy that it is summer. You know, I love hockey, but I'm always so busy during hockey season between teaching, because, school's usually like September to May, September to June, and then also writing about hockey, because the publications that want me to write about hockey tend to be more published more in like the fall, winter, spring, like Hockey News. I mean, for instance, like Sports Collectors Digest, when I do write for them, it's kind of hard to write a hockey article in the summer. I mean, it's possible, but, obviously in the fall, winter, that's kind of when it makes more sense. And with Hockey News, they publish less in the summer. So I don't have much writing to do for them at the moment. So now I'm just kind of getting caught up in all these other things going on in my life, like just other stuff, unfinished business. Now I have actually time to come back to it. And, we could start doing podcasts again, because I had a Monday night class, and that was just weird because Monday nights are like the only time the three of us can really get together. And so, I mean, that was part of the reason why we weren't doing a show. But then even then, it was just we had some Stanley Cup Finals games that were like on Monday night. And so obviously we're going to watch that. And then, I was just busy with like deadlines for other things or school grading or whatever, just life gets in the way. I appreciate people who love the show and listen to the show. Well, maybe love's a strong word. People who like the show and listen to the show. But ultimately, this is a hobby. Until somebody starts bankrolling us, this is a hobby. So we just do it when we can do it, and we just do the best we can do. And that's all you can ever hope anybody to do, is the best that they can do.
There's a lot of people that love the show. Well, they at least claim to love the show. They tell us they do.
Okay. Love is a strong word. I want to talk about the finals. The finals, Stanley Cup final, should be singular. Anyway, so yeah, I know everybody knows this by now, but we still want to just talk about this. So Florida Panthers, back-to-back champions, This is why I don't make predictions. I picked Edmonton in 7 games, and Florida won in 6 games. So not only was I wrong about the team, I was wrong about how many games it took. Just to give a quick recap of the results. So game 1, the Oilers won 4-3 in overtime. Game 2, the Panthers won 5-4 in double overtime. Game 3, the Panthers won 6-1. Game 4, the Oilers won 5-4 in overtime. Game 5, the Panthers won 5-2. Game 6, the Panthers won 5-1. Sam Bennett of the Panthers was named playoff MVP. He scored 15 goals in the playoffs, including 5 in the final. Also, he is a unrestricted free agent, so I can't think of a better time in your life to become playoff MVP than when you are going to be negotiating a new contract over the summer. My one big takeaway about this is that when Edmonton won, they just barely won. And when Florida won, they really won. I mean, yeah, they got an overtime win. And if you win the championship, you know what? You got to have a lucky win. You have to have an overtime win, but you also have to have some real wins. If all your wins are in overtime, unless all 7 games or 5 games or whatever went to OT, that would be kind of an anomaly, But I mean, just looking at these scores again, it shows Edmonton winning 2 games, but those are games that could have gone either way. This could have been a sweep. What do you guys think? I'd like to go first this time.
I mean, I felt like it was dominance.
Yeah.
I mean, after watching this, so you figure the Panthers have been there 3 times, right?
Uh-huh.
So you learn how to lose before you learn how to win. Isn't that what they always say in sports?
Yes.
So they come in, they win 2 straight. Last year was a lot closer, like you said. Edmonton, I think, was a better team last year. They just didn't win all of it. Florida definitely kind of backed off a little bit by game 4. 5 and 6 they played, but they won by a goal. And Edmonton played really good in games 2 and 3 last year too. So, but you fast forward to this year, I mean, there was none of that. Like, Florida knew what they were going to get with Edmonton. They knew what was coming, and they prepared for it. And it was from game 2 forward, it was pretty much domination. I mean, there was very little taking their foot off the pedal. Hats off to them. They got the right formula down. I thought it was going to be over quicker. Like, what was it, game 2 or game 3 when they got under the Oilers' skin and they just started taking penalty after penalty?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was absolutely nuts. But they were in their head at that point. And there were so many game breakers for Florida that, Edmonton didn't have the players to offset at that point. And let's be honest, you need your best players to be your best players, and they just weren't getting that out of Draisaitl or McDavid, really.
Right. And on top of that, they had the same goaltending duo that they had a year ago. And I don't want to bag on Stuart Skinner, but he's not the answer. And
I mean, it's easy to do. I mean, it's really easy to do.
And Calvin Pickard, I mean, he's a backup. He's a backup. He's a good backup, but he's a backup. So I feel like they weren't up to the task. They weren't up to the task of stepping up and being the goalie that they needed. I mean, I think, I guess the thing that made me think that Skinner could be that goaltender is I think about how Adin Hill played a couple years ago for the Vegas Golden Knights, when you were just like, okay, Adin Hill's their number 1 goalie, but yeah, he's doing okay. The thing is that, like, you either need to have a great goalie like the Panthers had Bobrovsky, or you need to have a decent goalie who could win you a game, right? You need that average goalie who is going to play above their level. And
yeah, you have to have a guy that turns it on at some point in the playoffs and steals a couple.
Right. And that's the thing, is that Skinner, and I'm trying very hard not to say Jeff Skinner, Stuart Skinner couldn't steal them a game. He could not steal them a game. And I thought that he let in a lot of soft goals. I mean, easy for me to say. I never played goalie at any level other than street hockey. But I'd see some of those goals and I'd be like, oh, really? That got in? But then I'd see other goals and be like, well, yeah, he didn't have a chance on that. You watch hockey long enough and you see things and sometimes you go, that should not have been a goal, but it was. And other times you just go, well, he couldn't have done anything. He didn't have any help.
Well, the thing that kills me about it, and we've talked about this before, I mean, you can go back in any of our podcasts where we talk about the Oilers. It doesn't matter what season. One thing I always bring up, their back end. Their back end is their detriment. They don't have defensive depth and they don't have goaltending. And they still don't. Teams build their defense from within. You draft high-end defensive players, you bring them up through the organization, and then you go get a couple veterans to mentor these guys. You don't just keep bringing in like vet guys and trying to fill in your bottom D pairings. You just can't do it. And if you don't have a goaltender, like if you have 3 goaltenders, you have no goaltenders.
Exactly.
I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And, I hate to say it, you got arguably 2 of the top 3 players in the NHL on your team offensively. And it's like, for Oilers fans, you can't help but think that this is just being wasted. Like these prime years of having these guys at the top of their game. What's going to be the push? Is this finally it? Losing twice? Is this finally like the wake up call? Everybody's fired and we're going to, bring in something new. I don't know. I don't know what is, but yeah, I mean, to be manhandled like they were, I didn't expect that. But then again, I'm the guy that picked Dallas 2 years in a row to win it all. So here we are.
Well, they're another team that needs to sort of figure out after losing in the conference finals twice, right? So,
yeah.
No, I agree with everything you guys said. The goaltending is key. I was hoping for a tighter series after game 1 because it was really too close and went to overtime. But I agree that just looking at the scores, you can tell that Florida dominated. Weird. It's also the fact that, this is a team sport. And just because you have McDavid and Draisaitl doesn't mean that you can beat everybody. And so, here we are. But I don't know how you don't pluck down the money to get a really good goaltender because they know that's their weakness. It's been their weakness for years. And I don't think losing in the finals twice is a wake-up call because once would be enough, right? So I don't know. But, we always said the hobby was rooting for the Oilers, and that didn't happen. So we move on.
I was thinking if the Panthers could three-peat, and after taking a quick look at their roster and their cap space, the answer is yes. I think they can. I think everybody thinks they can because, they got $19 million in cap space. The UFAs, the big UFAs that they have to re-sign, obviously Sam Bennett and Aaron Ekblad are probably the 2 biggest UFAs. But then there's also Brad Marchand, who had a hell of a playoff run.
He was a great pickup, right?
He was a great pickup. A couple other UFAs. You got Nico Sturm, Thomas Nosek, Nate Schmidt, Jacob Megna, and goalie Vitek Vanacek. So I feel that they absolutely need to re-sign Bennett, Ekblad, and Marchand, and those other guys. Yeah, I feel like Nate Schmidt did well. Everybody did well. Even Vanacek, who didn't play. You remember him kind of trying to get in the head of Skinner during the warm-ups?
No one said actually what was said. No one's actually made claim to any of it yet. But
right.
Everybody has said what the things he was saying worked. I don't know if I buy into all that, but who knows what it is. Hey, look at who got the Stanley Cup after they handed it off. After Gary hands the cup off to the captain. Look who he gave them to. They passed it around to all the guys that hadn't won the previous year and hadn't won a cup.
Right. I think they gave it to Nate Schmidt, and then I think after that they gave it to Seth Jones. Because basically what they did was they did the guys who had been in the league the longest, who didn't get a Stanley Cup, who have not won a Stanley Cup. Then they went to all the black aces and third, like the
Yeah.
third, they went to like the fourth string goalie or something. I mean, I think like somebody was saying, I don't think that guy's even played a game. He's just like their third string or fourth string goalie, but they said, here's the cup. So they gave the veterans who never won a cup, and then the bit players, and then the regulars and such, got to hoist the cup.
You talk about being a team game, Clemente. That, to me, I don't know that you would see that kind of thing out of some of the other teams that are out there. Like, these guys were playing for each other, and they were in it. I mean, they were in the thick of it, and I don't know. You get all the haters talking about how Florida, they're not a legit team. There's no tax there. They cheat the system. They used LTIR. They did this. They did that.
Yeah, I saw those headlines, but I agree. That's not enough.
It's silly.
So.
There was no one at the parade. Oh, look at these photos. There was no one at the parade. It was 107 degrees.
Right.
When they got to the beach and the stage was set up, that's where all the people were. And you could show like the celebrations that Chicago had, in Grant Park and all of that, all you want till the cows come home. Chicago is bigger than my
more population.
I mean, so all these people, they're not a legit team. Their fan base sucks, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? They got 2 cups. So as a certain person said at one point, I can't hear you with the rings in my ears. So
no, what's funny though, I emphasize that it's a team game because number one, it is. But number two, on a hobby level, we're always thinking about individual players and players to collect and values of individual players. And so a lot of that mindset goes into fans and what they think of teams and individual players. And ultimately that's what, how people assess things, even though it's not based on reality.
Backtracking for just a minute. I mentioned how they handed the cup, I believe, to Nate Schmidt and then to Seth Jones. I was super happy for Seth Jones because I've seen him play on the Blackhawks the last couple of years. And I just want to say something really quick as somebody who's followed the Blackhawks for over 30 years. When they signed Seth Jones, that was the same summer they got Marc-Andre Fleury. And it looked like the Blackhawks were legitimately trying to be a contending team. It didn't work out. They ended up trading Fleury. They ended up becoming a terrible team. Then they tanked for Connor Bedard. They traded away Patrick Kane. They couldn't do anything with Taves, so they just, they couldn't trade him, but they said they weren't going to re-sign him.
Who's now going to be a Winnipeg Jet, by the way.
Which we all thought that was going to happen anyways. And so I'm surprised Winnipeg didn't sign him for the playoffs. But anyway, what I was going to say, though, is that I remember before this season, they had that bad season and they were able to draft Bedard. And then they had a bad season when Bedard was a rookie. And I understand why they didn't give anybody the captaincy because Taves had been the captain for so long. You don't just want to turn it over to somebody right away. So, all right, they had 3 alternate captains for a season. That's fine. That was a respectful thing to do. Well, Jones told the media that he would be honored if he was the Blackhawks captain. Okay. So that seems like you're kind of lobbying. That's like me saying, hey, Clemente, man, I know you're going to get married and I'd be so honored if you asked me to be the best man at your wedding, right? You can't do that, right? You can't say, hey,
you're campaigning.
Yeah, exactly. And so the thing is I understood what he was doing. I didn't think it was right, but I didn't blame him because it was he could have been captains on the Blue Jackets, but Foligno was on that team, and he could have been a captain on the Preds. I forgot who he played with when he was on the Preds, but I look at that, and he was on some they were not the greatest teams. And I guess what I'm saying though is but he basically said that he wanted to be the captain of the team, right? He was willing to commit to that team. He'd signed that long contract and he wanted to be part of the leadership. He wanted to be the leader of the team. So I think that's noble. When the fact that they didn't give him the C, they gave it to Foligno. And then I can understand why he'd be upset. And then they're losing. And people are like, oh, he has a terrible plus minus. It's like, well, yeah, because he's playing all the big minutes on a horrible team. And he's like one of the best things on a horrible team, right? So then he said he wanted to get traded to a contender and he requested a trade. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know why hockey fans get so butthurt about everything. You know,
They
it's like,
talk
okay,
about something.
well, yeah, but I mean, you want to have control over your career, right? Like you, Tim, and you, Clemente, and me, Sal, we want to have some control over our career. But when an athlete wants to do it, it's like, oh, you should play for the team that drafted you, and you should be grateful. And, oh, well, how can you sign that big contract with the team and then decide that you don't want to be there anymore? And it's just like, you don't know everything that's going on, right? And they only get one career. You know what, Tim, you're probably going to be a tax adjuster. Is that what you do?
Sure, go with that.
Okay, you're probably going to be a tax adjuster until you're 80, right? If you
I
could
sure
only,
so hope not.
if you could only be a tax adjuster from the age of 18 to maybe the age of 28 if you're lucky, or the age of 38 if you're a superstar tax adjuster, or maybe you're one of those generational tax adjusters who plays until, taxes until 42 or maybe 44. That's it. You only have 20 years to make a career, right? You don't
That'd
have
be great because I would have retired 8 years ago.
Exactly. Right. So that's what I'm saying, though. So I'm happy for Seth Jones. I was not mad that he wanted to get a trade. I wasn't upset that he wanted to be the Blackhawks team captain. I kind of thought he was the obvious choice, but what do I know? So, yay. I'm happy for Seth Jones. He doesn't listen to this podcast. I don't think any Panthers fans listen to the show. I know Blue Jackets fans listen to the show because every now and then someone will reach out to me angrily on Twitter and share a piece of their mind with me, which is okay. Or it's either the Blue Jackets
I'm glad you brought that up.
or the Wild fans. But yes, I brought up the Blue Jackets fans. So lay it on me.
I was just told that you need to lay off the Blue Jackets because you talk a lot of crap about the Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
Apparently.
And a couple of years ago, I was talking a lot of crap about the Wild. And before we did this podcast, I used to talk a lot of crap about the Predators. So, I mean,
Predators deserve some of that. They made their own bed. They lie in it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just happy the Stanley Cup gets to stay in the United States for the 32nd straight year. That's all I'm happy about. A team full of Canadians won the cup for an American team. I'm cool with that.
And what is it? What is this cup number 4 or 5 for Governor DeSantis? No. So there you go. I mean, compared to Canada, right, where they don't have any. And that's why I think some of the arguments over the parade are people who think, well, why are these warm cities getting, all this hockey love? And because the league expanded and it's been expanding for years. It's not new. We lived through the Tampa years too, right, recently. So it's not that surprising, but it would have been nice. Look, a lot of people here wish the Oilers had won. The hobby was rooting for the Oilers. And I guess another time we could have a whole discussion about whether or not McDavid needs to win a Stanley Cup to be immortalized. And I don't think that's the case. It would be nice for him, but it may never happen. He may have to just be happy with the 4 nations. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're going to be in a rebuild for sure. And I do agree that Florida will be the team to beat next year.
To be the man, you got to beat the man. I mean, they're going to be the number 1 contender right out of the box, especially if they sign these guys that you mentioned earlier.
I don't think Brad Marchand is going anywhere. I think he's going to stay with Florida. He was a good.
Would surprise me.
He was a good fit. He played well. He doesn't have the pressure that he had in Boston because he was the team captain. So, you have a lot of pressure. Now he doesn't have that pressure. He could do what he does. I mean, what was he? Second line, third line? He was kind of, middle 6, which is fine. I'd rather be a middle 6 player and be really good than a top line player and be horrible and everybody hate me.
It's the Phil Kessel effect.
The Phil Kessel effect, right? I like that.
Yeah. When Phil had to be the top line guy and the producer, he would get all the crap. And then he goes to the Penguins and guess what? He's on the third line. And all of a sudden, now he's Stanley Cup champion winning.
No, but he was playing on a line with Crosby.
Kessel played on the third line.
I thought he and Crosby were on the same
line. He was on the HBK line.
Okay.
with
What were they yelling at each
Hagelin,
other?
Bonino, and Kessel.
What were they yelling at each other about?
They play
that
on
one
this.
finals.
They play
Power
out there in
play.
the power play.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They would have been out there in the power play, but I mean, not only did he get one cup, he got two. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's that kind of thing. You know, sometimes that pressure backs you off, and you can play your game and not have to worry about a lot of the other stuff. And I mean, he's such that polarizing guy where he's the hockey bro type guy and says stuff and talks crap and he's a trash talker and he backs it up. I mean, look at all his social media posts on Instagram where he was filming like the different guys on the team and he put their name and he'd be like, thanks, whoever, for trading so-and-so to our team. And he just went one after the other and he was posting it and he was tagging all the other teams in it. It's hilarious. I mean, they were all talking crap about McDavid and stuff too. He's got to be his teammate coming up for the Olympics. Right. Wonder how that's going to go.
Yeah, he'll be back. They got to re-sign Bennett. They got to re-sign Ekblad and lose a few, gain a few. If you're a UFA and you have an opportunity to play in Florida, would you want to? Hell yeah.
I mean, play for a winner. Why not?
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these recent trades. Kind of funny how they're not connected, but both have to do with Anaheim. So I guess in a way they are kind of connected. Chris Kreider traded to Anaheim for somebody I never heard of and some sort of draft pick, if I remember correctly. I don't know. It's just he was the name in that trade. So
Gary Terrence.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't picture his young gun rookie card in my mind.
Yeah, because he doesn't have one yet.
Was he an extended? Oh, he doesn't. Okay. So Kreider, I was surprised, but maybe not because I don't know. I mean, I thought he was going to be with the Rangers forever, but then again, I think everybody's going to be with whatever team they're on forever. So, Clemente, what's your thought on that? Since you've seen him play with the Rangers forever,
yeah. I mean,
12, 13.
Yeah, I think he was the longest tenured Ranger.
Right.
Look, the Rangers had a terrible season last year. They didn't make the playoffs. They collapsed towards the middle of the end. I think they're in a new coach, everything in a rebuild. I mean, sometimes you just got to move on. Great player, but I don't know that you can build a team around him. And so I think you got to go younger. You just got to blow it up and start over. So I wasn't surprised at all. And I agree that people think he's, someone who could have been there for his whole career, but you don't really see that anymore. I'm not going to really miss him. I feel like they let me down last year when they were building towards something year to year. So I think you need to start over. And if it's going to take a couple of rough years, so be it. That's the way it works. And, the goal is to make the playoffs and you got to do what you got to do. So it's not personal. Like you said, you never know what goes on behind the scenes. I'm not surprised. I'm sure he's not surprised either, especially at the way things ended last season.
Well, I guess they were trying to do something because they picked up JT Miller, and that's not exactly going younger, but Miller's a good player. So, or reacquired, I should say. Miller.
I think they're going to cut a few more start regulars. I think you're going to see a lot of guys being traded in the next couple of weeks. I think because Keandre Miller, some other players are being talked about in terms of being offloaded, and so and the Rangers have always done that. They've always sort of had a few young players, and then they love to bring in like really old guys to try to build things up. They never really did build the draft, and not successfully. I mean, not since like a Brian Leach and Tony Granato maybe. So we'll see what happens, but we're talking about 94, but no, the Rangers were in a positive place the last couple of years, and this year was totally a letdown. And so, when you get a new coach, I think you got to start over, and you got to bring your own guys in. And I think maybe they realized, as a leader, it works in the locker room, but after a while, it's not going to work anymore. And so I'm not going to really miss him. I don't think that I don't think I would call him a superstar. I mean, I don't think I would call him that. I don't think that he's the kind of player that if you asked a random person on the street, name a hockey player, people would name him, even in New York, I think, unless you were a Ranger fan. So in that sense, there's nothing lost there, I think.
Well, I remember when he broke into the league because I know that he played a little bit, maybe a few games in 11-12 because he was in all the 12-13 product. And that was the year they had the lockout. And then they ended up not making an Upper Deck Series 2 and not making, any rookie cards. So it was funny because his rookie card was the one everybody was looking for because he was like, oh, well, Chris Kreider is the best. Chris Kreider and Sven Bartz, I can't say his name, the Flame, he's not in the league anymore. Like, those were like the two that like people are saying, oh, these are going to be the best two from this very meager rookie crop, But
are you thinking of Sven Bartz?
Bartz?
Yeah, from the Flames?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bartz.
Yeah.
So one of those sounds. Anyway,
Kreider was still in Boston College in 11-12.
Well, then how did he have cards in 12-13?
Because,
he must have played a playoff game or something.
It could have been a playoff game because he played 23 games in 12-13, and he's got nothing on the NHL docket prior to that. Because he came out of Boston College like on fire and helped Boston College win its second NCAA championship in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think he may have played in like the Eastern Conference Finals after the championship was over.
Yeah, here, 18 games in the playoffs, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points, 6 penalty minutes in the 11-12 playoffs.
There you go. So, card it is.
Yep. So, play in the playoffs previous year, you get a card the following year, so, yeah.
Not to go off topic. It's not really off topic, but the Rangers also signed Matt Rempe to a 2-year contract. And I thought last year I thought he'd be gone. Like that he wouldn't even make the cut. So I don't know what they're doing. Like, Matt Rempe is a kind of a personality. He's younger, whatever. The hobby kind of likes him, but
talent or otherwise, he's a fan favorite.
He is. He was
people
at
would
Fest.
lose
People
their crap.
I know. I don't know why. I don't really understand why, because
he's a big
he's a big guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's
he's
what it is.
He's a big oaf and he fights.
Yeah. He's old school. Yeah.
He's a dying breed.
Yeah.
People like John Scott before he was an all-star. Just saying.
Oaf guys. Big oaf guys that impose their will upon everybody in the league. They still have a place.
People like enforcers.
And they have personality, which is people like too.
Yeah. So we had Kreider traded to Anaheim, and then Anaheim traded Trevor Zegras to the Flyers for Ryan Poehling and a couple of picks.
I will say this. I wish the Rangers got Trevor Zegras. I think they got the wrong end of that deal, but whatever. Trevor Zegras, got a lot of potential still. So
I think it's funny that Zegras was posting on his social media like when Kreider came over, and he was just so excited. He wanted to play with Kreider. He had pictures of them from like charity games or something, had played together. I think it was something like that. And then turn around and he gone. So
yeah.
Look, let's put it this way. The Flyers, if you ask me personally, Zegras hasn't lived up to his expectations out of the box. He's a way bigger personality than he is as a hockey player. That's fine. I'm not diminishing his talent because he's a very talented kid. The Flyers fleeced Anaheim on this deal. They fleeced them. They fleeced them. Because, look, top 2 line centers aren't prevalent, and the Flyers needed that. They really did. And honestly, if you look at the upcoming draft that we're getting ready to experience, the Flyers have the 6th pick. So looking at the prospects that are out there right now, Porter Martone could fall to 6th. And so if they're able to get one of the top forwards in the draft, plus bring on Zegras, what are we talking about here? Daniel Briere is going to be up for GM of the year, like right out of the box. I know I'm just speculating, but still.
No, sometimes players just need a change of scenery, and so maybe that's what Zegras needed. He had a good rookie year. He did not win Rookie of the Year, but he had a good rookie year, and he's an exciting player. Like you said, he's a bigger personality than he is a player. Maybe that can change. He still has a lot of room to grow, a lot of upside. I think it's exciting, and playing for a team like the Flyers. Okay, first of all, whenever anybody says original 6, it's always like oozing with pretension. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they're not an original 60. It's like, well, you know what I mean?
They're like, next 6.
Well, no, that's the thing, though, is that I don't think that matters so much anymore. Like, okay, so you look at, like, I think of, like, teams like the Flyers and the Penguins. They've been around so freaking long. I don't think of them as expansion teams. I mean, every team was an expansion team except for maybe Montreal, who was, one of the teams in 1917. So
No, but Philadelphia's an awesome hockey market, so no one's going to.
that's what I mean, though. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, I think, like, there are certain markets that, like, they're not quote unquote original six, but they're such an awesome hockey market. So I think that Zegras going to a team like the Flyers is exciting. I think it's exciting for hockey. I think it'd be exciting for him, and I hope he has a good year.
It'll be interesting to see how he works out having Rick Tocchet as a coach. That's what I want to see.
That's the wild card. Yeah.
Yeah.
On to some hobby news. Matthew Schaffer, defenseman who is projected to be drafted first overall, signed an exclusive autograph deal with Upper Deck. So Upper Deck is locking up a few of these top-end prospects who are slotted to go high in the upcoming draft to autograph deals, which I guess is great for Upper Deck, especially if the player pans out as somebody that you'd want an autograph from. I think that's smart. It's funny how we're seeing this more and more with hockey, really with Upper Deck, though, because that's their business. But
well, it's also defense because Fanatics might move in, and like Bedard, he's got this deal with Upper Deck, but he also has a deal with Fanatics. And so when Upper Deck is making a deal with a player, they want to secure them not just for trading cards, but for autographs of all memorabilia, pucks, jerseys, whatever, because they want to be able to sell stuff on the website. Because what happened with Bedard, I think, is Bedard's got the license on the cards and autographs on the cards, but the photos and everything else, I think he's a Fanatics guy. So
yeah, that's exactly
so he kind of split that in half, and they maximize his profit. I'm assuming Upper Deck never makes these public how much money they're paying, but I'm thinking they have to pay a lot more now because even Schaffer could be like, yeah, I don't mind being on the trading cards. I understand you guys have the exclusivity of the license, but when it comes to the pucks and the jersey and stuff, well, I want to do Fanatics because they're going to pay me more. So Upper Deck has had to up their game, right? And so good for them because as hockey collectors, I think we value Upper Deck and we want it to stay within the Upper Deck family because they have a lot of experience. They put together a much better product, and I think the players end up benefiting from it because the hockey know-how of Upper Deck is really unmatched. And look, whether or not Fanatics, we talk about this all the time, wants to get more into hockey, we'll see. But for now, it's definitely an Upper Deck thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of my take on it too. Is you see these younger guys coming out and with name and image licensing, with all the NIL money that gets thrown around for college sports and everything else now. I mean, it would behoove guys. I mean, they're actually talking that this could be like the end of junior level hockey because all these guys now are going to try to join NCAA teams and go through the college ranks now.
Just to make money, just to make
money. Yeah.
Because
I mean, think about it. The 1% of the 1% are the ones that are going to actually make a career out of the NHL. What are your odds of being that? Right? So make your money now. Look, Matthew Schaffer, I don't think there's any doubt right now that he's by far the best prospect. Like, I don't even think it's debatable now. It was debatable maybe 6-8 months ago. I don't know that it is. Even despite the surgery that he had to have after World Junior, I don't think there's any debate here. And so locking him up, Upper Deck had to do that. They already claimed James Higgins like a month ago. He's projected potentially 3, maybe going to the Blackhawks, possibly. He's a center from Boston College. I don't know. But they already signed Michael Misa, last year, the year before, when he was way young, because they were talking back then. It's like, here's a generational type player, this Michael Misa. He's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And he's still good, but some of the other guys have caught up. Look, Schaffer plays for the Erie. He's an Erie Otter in the OHL. So he goes as the number 1 pick. Who's the last Erie Otter that went as the number 1 pick?
McJesus.
Exactly. So I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying, last time we had a number 1 Erie Otter, that's what we got. So, Yeah, so basically the top 3 picks, potential picks, are locked under Upper Deck agreements. So, I mean, it's good for them. They can do a lot with it. I mean, they already, Mike Miso out of the box, he was signed for a month, and they put out all those game dated moments cards of his that you could buy. And he was 4 years from even sniffing the NHL. So, yeah, I mean, if there's competition out there, if there's blood in the water, the Sharks are going to find it. So good for Upper Deck and locking those down, just so they have some type of security on some of these guys that are going to be top picks.
Yeah, smart business. Let's talk about the 23-24 Upper Deck The Cup set and how the RPA, the rookie patch auto cards, come pre-slabbed. I know Clemente wrote about this for Sports Collectors Digest. I wrote about this for the Hockey News. I talked with Paul Zickler from Upper Deck. I know this is like old news now because, like I said, we haven't podcasted in like a month, but this is significant enough that we should still talk about it. I think that's a good idea. I think if you're buying a product like the Cup, which is like, $1,200 a box now, or $1,300 a box, you should get
for 6 cards.
For 6 cards, right? A box is misleading. It's a pack. It's a box. It's a pack. It's a tin,
correct terminology, but people just need to know that's 6 cards.
Right. Yeah, like a box. Yeah, well, this box has 6 cards, right?
Yeah.
So the 6-pack of the Cup, and the one card that everybody covets the most from that box is the rookie autographed patch card. It's got a piece of jersey patch and it's signed on card, and that's usually considered the ultimate rookie card to buy. And by ultimate, I don't mean Upper Deck Ultimate. I mean like the best, not to be confused with Upper Deck Ultimate, which is also actually the name of a product. And also not to be confused with Premier or any of those other names that mean something outstanding. But anyway, I think it's a good idea because that card is what people covet, and that card is an investment. And so I think having it slabbed, it's fine. Can't get damaged. Can't get damaged in transit. Can't get damaged by your grubby little hands when you look at it and hold it and show it to other people. And then they got the little QR code that you take a picture of, and then that takes you to a web page that shows you the card in the slab so that you can validate that it's not counterfeit, that that's actually the real deal, and that the piece of jersey hasn't been replaced with a better or different piece of jersey. I wouldn't even know how to begin how to do that, right? Like, I know how to make custom cards, but I don't know how to make custom jersey cards. Or if somebody said, hey, can you take off this piece of jersey and put this better piece of jersey on this Sidney Crosby jersey card, I wouldn't even know where to start with that. But apparently some people do.
No, it's hugely prevalent and has been around for a while. It's been a big problem.
Especially with football and basketball, it's been a thing. When I talked to them and they were explaining the whole thing, I understood the fact that you want to make it safe for especially on the resale market. But all I could think about as they were talking about it was, what about if I want to put this in the PSA slab? How does that going to work?
What?
And that's when they basically said, look, you could take it out of here and put it in the PSA. Hopefully PSA would then replicate the number that's on it. This way that people can still search it. The interesting thing was they didn't make this deal with PSA or BGS or any of these companies ahead of time, so they didn't do that. But then they made the argument that keeping it in that slab would actually also be something worth it because it means it was not touched, uncirculated. It should be a 10 basically because it's in the slab, and I see some value to that too. But some people, as Tim kind of sarcastically responded there, on social media, I think the big buzz is, well, I don't want it in this thing. I want it in my own thing. And it became kind of like, yes, we're saying good things about it, but there's also been some negativity around it online.
It's always that, what's the resale value? And people can say, no, this is how I do my collection. I slab everything because I want it to all look the same and blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. You're a very small portion of the people. Everybody's looking for their return on investment. And if you're going to spend money on the Cup and you want something that you're going to flip or turn into cash to try to make some of your money back, you're going to try to put it into a PSA slab because that's what gets the most money. I think this should have been done a long time ago. What I don't like is I've seen stuff come out already that have not the best looking edges and corners on some of them.
That's weird then, because
which
you
is
know what I mean?
unfortunate.
That's weird. Yeah,
Because it's the cup, it's high end. As far as I know, they're hand collated, right? These aren't machine packed, right?
I think you're right.
So, I mean, you know, those aside, I mean, that's going to happen. Not everything's
It's a
a 10
quality
out of a
control
pack,
issue.
right?
That's a different.
Yeah.
It's a quality control thing. Yeah.
The other big concern that's out there now is that where do these patches come from? And this has always been the case. You know, these products that have rookie cards in them, to make these rookie cards, these players maybe played a game, 2 games, 3 games, 10 games, whatever it might be. They get it put in these cards. Where do these jerseys come from? Especially when most of these patches are sometimes crazy patches or advertising patches or commemorative patches or something that was worn in specific games, specific times of year, specific seasons, so on and so forth. A great example, the Connor Zary one that came out, it's clearly a piece of the Alberta flag patch because it's got blue in it. And I mean, you can clearly see it was the shoulder patch. And that's when Calgary had the Alberta flag patch on their shoulders. Well, the last time they used that jersey was in 21 to have that patch. For the rule sticklers, right? Zari's rookie year's 23, hence the RPA and a 23-24 product. Why does it have a 21 patch? We've known for a long time what they do. Here, put on these 57 jerseys. Touch this. Breathe on this. That way we have some type of, and we can say it was worn by this player. And off we go.
It was blessed by the Pope. Sorry.
Yeah, because way worse than that. I mean, you could have a Panini term of service, as I call it, on the back of their card. This belongs to no particular player from no particular time from no particular jersey, and
time.
it may be part of a tablecloth. Upper Deck does what everybody else does. They give a player a random jersey, they put it on, color correct, era correct, style correct, etc. They don't really care about the provenance of its origin. I don't think. I'd like them to. That'd be nice. It'd be nice if you would get that provenance to go with it, to say, hey, here's the jersey patch that's in here. Here's where it came from. That'd be nice if that was part of the QR code scan. I think that'd be cool. We had the same problem with the Tim Stützle RPAs in most products from 2021. They had pieces of jersey patches that were long retired by the Ottawa Senators. Both RPAs this year in SPX for Connor Dewar and Matt Coronado. Same issue as the Zary one. They have a piece of the Alberta flag. So we know neither of them had it because they're rookies this year. But there's countless numbers of examples of these. Henrik Lundqvist Ultimate from 05-06. The piece on his jersey, clearly not from any game used Rangers jersey or patches from that season. Yet it looks like some generic logo number piece on most of the cards. And a lot of people have considered it, well, it must be part of a practice jersey. But we'll never know because on the back of the card it says photo shoot worn. So it could be anything. It's white and blue, but it's not the right color blue. So nobody really knows where it came from. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, same thing in 21-22. Go back to the Jack Eichel ones from 15-16. The ones with the little tiny letter B. And then the picture that went around years ago on all the message boards and stuff that showed the hockey jersey that was supposedly from a photo shoot that had like 50 letter patches sewn to the back of it.
Jeez.
That they basically, here, put this on. Okay, so now we have all these letter patches, including, if you see at the bottom, there's tiny letters that say Buffalo. So you know where the B came from. Because you're like, is this a number 8? No, it's a letter B. But there's no B on a Buffalo jersey that's that small. Well, it came from these jerseys with all the extra patches. Max Domi had the same thing. There was a shoulder emblem of a Phoenix Coyote jersey. Last I checked, Max never played for the Phoenix Coyotes. He played for the Arizona Coyotes. They didn't have that Phoenix patch. So, Or what have we known about a long time? What number do they give at rookie photo shoots for players to wear? They give them 88. Why? Because the 8s are the biggest numbers. It's more material that they can cut apart and put into the jerseys. Yeah, I mean that's one of the things. It's true. Look it up. You can look it up. So I mean, there's a lot of examples. Yeah. I mean, there's just tons of them. Where did this come from? Like, I would like that to be part of this. I think they should have taken it the one step further. And what you said about them not telling PSA ahead of time, or BGS or anybody else, not partnering with any of them to be like the exclusive slabber of Upper Deck RPAs or anything like that. I think that was a mistake. I think they could have brought in one of those groups and partnered up with them to be like, okay, hey, all the things from 23, 24, they're all going to be in a PSA slab. Maybe that sours.
Yeah, I understand. I understand from authentication point of view, you want to protect the people buying your products, but I didn't understand the part about not letting the creators know. Maybe they don't want to leak out, but the fact that you didn't partner with somebody like you mentioned caused some people to say, well, wait a minute, I don't like this slab, or what is this slab? It's not graded. It just tells me it's original. Well, isn't that what all the cards should be? But saying it's for the resale. For example, in the old days, pre this year, if you bought a pack of the cup, a box of the cup, and then you pulled, a patch auto, and then you sold it, unless someone took a picture of that, put it on eBay, if you bought that at a show 5 years later, you don't know whether or not that patch has been removed, replaced, because there is no original place to go online. Now, Upper Deck also told me that to put all those patches online over the years was a lot of work, and they didn't have the capacity on the back end to do that either. So I think all this has been talked about for a few years, and now they got to the point where they can do it online, probably with the help of AI. And then on top of that, they slabbed them. But I agree that if they had made a deal with somebody like PSA, because it's most popular, then maybe it would have been better received.
Yeah, they could have avoided a lot of the trauma right out of the box by doing that. And I'm not saying they were wrong in doing that. The fact that they did it and finally got this up off the ground, I think is great.
Yeah, kudos, for that. Yeah.
How it's going to evolve from here, it'll be interesting.
I will say, I've been to a few shows.
Will other people piggyback it? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Will other companies follow?
Yeah. I've been to a few shows, and I have not seen anything in the showcase in that slab from Upper Deck. I've not seen it in person. I've seen pictures, but not in person. And I also wonder if they're going to extend it to other of their higher end products going forward. It's possible.
They said they might do that, but really they wanted to focus on the cup. So in the near future, I don't think they have any plans to do that for anything. And I guess you wouldn't want to do that for everything, because if you think about it, like, well, not everything, obviously can't do it for everything, nor should you. But like, yeah, some of the other high-end products, why not? Although this does kind of give the cup that little extra bit of value for what it's worth.
Because if everybody's special, nobody's special.
Right, exactly. So if every card comes slabbed, then what's the point? No, I'm kidding. Because you know what? Again, I thought this was a good idea, because if it's in this tamper-proof slab, then you know that the card has not been tampered with, unless they tampered with the slab, which is possible, but unlikely, right? Like if somebody came to my table when I'm at a show and they said, hey, I got this Crosby card with the patch, do you want to buy it? I'd look at it and I wouldn't even think, oh, this guy could have tampered with the patch. That's not something that I think about. Like, even when people sell me a graded card, I don't think, wait a minute, they might have cracked this, put it in another one, or just changed the little tag. You know how people were making their own forgeries of the little PSA labels that go on the top of the slabs? That's just not where my mind is, because I'm not a devious person who thinks of these things. So like, when people come to my table and they want to sell me something, I just assume that it's legit. Now, if somebody has a Gretzky rookie to sell, of course, I'm going to have questions. Of course, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to scrutinize it, because that card's been counterfeited countless times. But for like,
you're looking for the grainy nicks on the text, and you're looking for the dot on the shoulder, and you're looking for all of the telltale signs.
Right. But, like the one time a guy asked me, or one time last year at the National, the guy came up to me and he said, can you tell me if this Gretzky card is a fake or not? I say, I'll take a look at it. We took it out of the holder and like right away, I just knew. I go, oh yeah, this is fake. And here's what. I didn't even need to look for a dot. It was just the card stock was wrong. And that was it, there could be lots of different signs, right? But if something comes in a slab with an Upper Deck logo and the QR code, and I can take a picture of it and be like, oh yeah, this matches the picture. You look like your Match.com dating profile picture, so it's you. Match.com. Okay, even my freaking online dating reference was 10 years ago. I should have said what? Tinder? eHarmony? Is eHarmony still a thing? I don't know. I haven't been looking for a date in years.
I don't think any of these are around anymore.
No, well, Match has been around forever, and they'll probably still be around. But like, I think eHarmony got sued.
So let me roll out this scenario to you, right?
All right.
So all of these are coming pre-slab.
Yep.
All the Cup RPAs pre-slab, right?
Yep.
So somebody decides, no way, I don't want this. I'm sending this to PSA. I need to get a 10 because I'm doing whatever I'm doing with it.
Right.
So they crack it out of the slab. They send it to PSA. PSA slabs it, puts it back in a holder. Fast forward, it's in a case somewhere at a show, and you or I walk up to it, and that's the card we're looking for. And we look down at it, and we're like, why is this in a PSA slab? This should be in the Upper Deck anti-fraud technology slab.
Right.
But it's not. It's in a PSA slab. Right. First thing I'm thinking in my head, knowing that these should be in this slab going forward, is somebody tampered with that card. Now, PSA is not going to pick that up unless they do. If somebody sends that in and they're like, oh, this is a 23-24, the Cup, we should be scanning the scan code on here first to make sure this patch matches, and then do our due diligence to make sure it matches what's on the website before we decide to put it in this slab. Otherwise, we're sending it back to the person that sent it to us and say, this has been tampered with. Yeah, but are they going to take that extra step?
No, I see what you're saying. So you're saying to get it done right, you send it to PSA in a slab, and PSA will say, we're not cracking it. We don't do that. We don't crack slabs, right, even though this is like some weird Upper Deck slab.
Right.
So I agree with you. It does cause confusion later, or can, when you see that card 3 years from now and say, isn't that the year they started putting these in this? You're right. Now, Upper Deck told me, and I'm sure Sal got the same thing, that they expect people to crack it and get it graded, and they're not stopping you, even though they said to me, but it would look nice if you kept it in here because, it's secure. You can look it up. And at the very least, they were hoping PSA and BGS would at least have the scan code, or even so you can look it up.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Their design is their design. They're not going to throw somebody else's advertising or somebody else's scan code or anything else onto their product. They're not going to do that. Maybe they give you the scan code on a little card and say, hey, we would recommend that you stick this sticker on the back or keep this with it in your paperwork and blah, blah, blah. No one's going to do that.
But they can't force anyone to do it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So for me, as a collector that somewhat pays attention to this, not that I'm the market for this, but I'm just saying, if I was, knowing that going forward, 23-24 slab, 24-25 slab, going forward, if I see anything that's not in that slab that should be, I'm going to immediately think something happened to it. It was tampered with. Because if I can't check, I'm not going to sit there on my phone and go through this entire database scrolling until I find this stuff because I don't have a scan code to go right to it. So I'm going to have to look every one of these up, go through. Hopefully it's available that we can scroll through all of these, histories and find all the pictures and everything. But I mean, honestly, that's why wouldn't you think so? Because is it altered now?
Right.
You received this out of the package from the manufacturer like this. You gave it to us and it's missing the wrapper. So it's tampered. So why would we even grade this at all? It's already, it's already tampered with.
Well, what's interesting? I haven't seen any of these graded, and I haven't heard anything about. Yeah, it's too soon. I also, it's very high end, obviously, but I wonder if the grading companies are having this conversation right now. Maybe they haven't gotten any in yet, but they will, and I agree with you. They're just going to grade them like it's a normal card.
The 23-24, the Cup 1/1 rookie auto shield of Connor Bedard was already pulled, and the 23-24 Ultimate Rookies 1-of-1 NHL Shield of Connor Bedard were pulled. Both within about a week of each other. But the difference is the Cup was already graded. It was graded a 10. I don't know if the Shields were pre-slabbed. That part I don't know.
No, I think it's only rookie patch autos.
So if it's only the rookie patch autos, well, now you got a Shield that's graded a 10, which, I mean, a Shield is a Shield. You can yank a Shield off of any generic jersey.
Right, and that doesn't count as a rookie card, even though, it should. But people get very specific about, oh, it's the gold parallel. It's not the rookie card. Whatever.
Right.
I mean, it's the 1-of-1 Shield. There's one.
Yeah, why grade it then? There's no point. It's one of a kind. Who cares if it grades a 10 or grades a 3? It's one of a kind. We could have a whole
friggin' show about that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
We could have 20 shows about that.
Yeah. So I'd like to wrap things up with a discussion about Fanatics Fest NYC 2025. Did I get that name right, Clemente? Is that the official name?
For branding purposes, I think you're correct.
Yeah, I just forgot the little R with the circle on it because I don't know how to enunciate that.
Registered trademark, yeah.
Yeah, so it took place, obviously, in New York City, June 20th to 22nd at the Javits Center. And that's all I know about it because I wasn't there. All I did was watch some cringe videos of people doing stuff and pictures that were posted, like some athlete from one sport just bought a card from another sport. Like, I should care. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, this football player bought this basketball player's rookie card. All right, well, let me know if he's going to set it on fire or something or do something funny with it. Otherwise, I don't care that somebody spent an obscene amount of money. Let's put it on Instagram and X and maybe Bluesky. So anyways, all right, what's up, man? How was the show? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Fanatics Fest Part 2. And last year, we didn't know what to expect, and it became this kind of big social viral event. If you didn't go to it, you almost experienced it online. And there was a lot of hype and buzz. And we talked about it last year. I covered it. I wrote about it, whatever. So this year I went into it. I had done a preview piece, and I expected them to do some modifications to it because there were some mistakes last year. So let's start with that. One being they enlarged the floor plan and they moved the autographs and photo ops to a lower level, which made it less congested and easier to walk through. And as a result, the booths, the corporate area, the activations all got bigger, which was good because people were coming and going from these places. You have to understand it's not just a card show, a memorabilia show, but there's all this interactive stuff that is going on, okay? So you walk in and it's massive. And it's a lot of, I was saying off air to Tim, it's like, does every booth need a DJ? Does there's strobe lights, there's blaring music everywhere. And everywhere you went, it was just very sensory overload. And I think controlled chaos is what they like to call it. And so the Friday I was there, the first day, it was super crowded. And I thought, wow, if it's crowded on a Friday, it's going to be bonkers on Saturday because any 3-day show, Saturday is always the big day anyway, right? So on Saturday, I took my daughter, 16-year-old, her name was Grace. And I thought, I said to her, look, you're kind of going to be my guinea pig. I'm going to take you. And she likes pop culture. She likes rap music. She likes sports. She likes cards. She likes all this kind of stuff, social media, whatever. I was like, I need you to just give me your impressions of this. Like, we're going to walk around. Just tell me what you think. Because I'm 50 and I live in a different reality than a 16-year-old. And this show is very much geared to younger. Even the card show part, it's all modern stuff. There's a little bit of vintage, but it's all modern. It's all high end. It's all, it's like a museum almost. And so we're walking around and we're going through all these areas and there's all this interactive stuff and there's all this soccer and NHL was there, all the major leagues and then Dick's Sporting Goods and Raising Cane's and all these different places that they were giving stuff away for free. I mean, you can almost go there and not buy anything and leave with a bag full of freebies because everybody was giving out something, right? A bag, patches, stickers, whatever it was. And she had a great time. She saw a ton of celebrities. She saw Tom Brady, LeBron James, and all these different rappers I don't know. And all these actors I've never heard of and all these social media YouTuber types and, whatever. And so she loved it. She had a great time and wants to go back next year. For me, I was more interested in sort of the hobby sports aspect. And as usual, it was, Michael Rubin production. It was, some stuff seemed very contrived. Some stuff was clearly not stuff that was happening by accident. It was either pre-planned, and they had this thing called the Fanatics Games where these various athletes would take on like regular Joes at different activations, whether it was kicking a soccer ball or shooting pucks or whatever it was. And in the end, Tom Brady won, because even a 50-year-old Tom Brady is still the best athlete out there compared to like regular people, compared to but I want to say, I think a gym teacher from New Jersey came in third place. So kudos to that guy who, came in third. So that was kind of interesting. But, as usual, tons of police, lots of craziness. To me, it was just too loud. It was too crazy. And the last point before I take questions, I know you have lots of questions, is last year it felt like two different shows. It was like the Fan Fest activation part, and then it was like the card part. This year they kind of integrated it more. They had this Breakers Pavilion. They had the Topps booth in the middle. Then they had like David Adams and Steel City was basically commingled with the other activations. Then you had some cards, some card tables throughout, and then you had this whole area for cards. So when you're walking around, it felt like the National. I thought to myself, is this the National? Like, it's just basically like lots of corporate booths, but interspersed with the card part. There was one section where it felt very heavy on different leagues and activations, but for the most part, the middle part of it felt very much like the National. And part of me thought, with the exception of like celebrities running around every once in a while, this is the National. And do we need another big show like this? Because they're committed to doing it in New York every year, they said. And they told me that the traveling circus aspect of it, that's kind of still being studied, because this cost them a ton of money. They lose money on it, but they gain it in so many other ways with social media. They gain it with advertising, because Fanatics' main job is to sell merchandise and apparel. That's really what they do. And everything else is just gravy. So whatever you saw on social media is really what you saw there, kind of all this craziness, lots of young people, lots of teenagers, lots of kids, which was good to see. But you don't really know why they're there. They're there for the cards. They're there for autographs. Or they're there for just the experience. That's the whole thing. It's supposed to be this interactive experience. And you could be in one booth, waiting to do the 40-yard dash at the NFL booth, and all of a sudden, like, Tom Brady shows up and runs with you. But you can't plan that. It has to kind of happen. You have to be lucky. But for that kid who that happens to, that's like a once-in-a-lifetime kind of opportunity for $60. That's how much what it costs to go in, $60, which is expensive if you're looking just to buy cards, because it's not worth it. No card show is worth $60, right? Unless you go to the National. So this is kind of, some of the same themes as last year, but they want to go bigger, bolder. They want to go crazier, and they were able to achieve that. And Michael Rubin, all different celebrities, and they're all on the payroll, and they're all getting compensated, and they're all looking to get the viral moment, because that's what pushes the needle now. And so very much a 2025 type show, and very different from the National, which in some ways the National almost feels sleepy by comparison.
That's a lot.
It's a lot there. It's a lot. It's a lot.
There's a lot. Being a journalist myself, I just thought I would ask you a few questions here about your experience at the show, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So we're here with Fanatics Fest expert Clemente to talk about his experience there. My first question I have, what was the buzz with all the sports fans there over this amazing Stanley Cup playoffs we just witnessed? And second part of the question, how mad are all the people from New York that the team from where their grandparents retired won the cup?
I wrote about this for Puck Junk. So in terms of the hockey part of it, the NHL booth was massive. That NHL corporate area was big. And I think this year they figured out, okay, we just can't like bring out mannequins and put jerseys on them like we did last year and have people shoot at machines, washing machines like that. That's not enough. We need to do more than that. And so they did bring out, they had the Ovechkin jersey that he scored the record-breaking goal in for the goals record. They had the skates, the gloves. So that was cool. Like, to be able to see that in the showcase was cool. because you want to go to a show like this to see memorabilia that you would never normally see somewhere. So that was really awesome, I thought. Then they also had another display with the Four Nations trophy, and they had the pucks from the USA Canada game and some other, game used, jerseys and whatever. And so that was really cool. Now, I mentioned there's no Stanley Cup there. It would have been really awesome to have the Stanley Cup there, but the Florida Panthers were drinking champagne out of it, as I pointed out. So that wasn't there, right? So the second question about sort of Florida, New York, whatever, is that it still feels very much like a regional East Coast show. I saw some Ranger jerseys there, but aside from people in Patriots gear, New York sports teams, and maybe Philadelphia, you don't really see much else. And soccer jerseys, because those are ubiquitous among young people. You don't really see anything else. So it still feels like no one is traveling from LA or from Chicago or from Florida to come to Fanatics Fest. The National, you'll see everyone at the Nationals from somewhere, right? So this is still not a show people are going to fly in for. I mean, I live in New York. I went to it. My daughter lives in New York with me. She went to it. But I'm not getting on an airplane to go to it. But I'm going on a plane to go to Chicago, right? So that's different. So if that's the answer to your question, I don't know that Fanatics Fest is nothing more than a very big regional show, because it's New York. It's, the capital of the world, whatever. But I don't know that you're getting even the panels they had, even a lot of the athletes that they had. I mean, they had a panel on the New York Knicks and a panel on, whatever, the Giants, and they had one on the Eagles because they won the Super Bowl. But Philadelphia is like a 2-hour drive from New York. So there were tons of Eagles fans there on Sunday, right? But aside from that, there is no buzz. The hockey part is still fairly, I still think if you're a hockey fan, it's not a bad show to go to, because they had 7 or 8 signers and the National can't figure that out, right? So for hockey, I thought, okay, if you're a hockey fan, Fanatics Fest might be better than the National at this point. It's a low bar, I know, but I hope I answered your questions. I mean, that's sort of my observation from being there.
Yeah, that was great. I do have a follow-up question. A moment ago, you used the term ubiquitous. Can you define that?
Meaning,
I'm just
everybody kidding. Wears it's everywhere. That's what ubiquitous means.
I'm just kidding. So I guess here's what I'm getting at. Last year, you didn't see any hockey content. I think Henrik Lundqvist was there.
Yeah, you had a panel on the Rangers, but with Matt Rempe was there, obviously, because he's a big kind of a fan favorite.
Yeah. And, considering we just were in the midst of the Stanley Cup playoffs, Stanley Cup finals, we've got the draft coming up with a lot of great prospect talent that we're about to see. And, as they say in all the other sports with drafts, lives are going to be changed forever and blah, blah, blah. And they make such a big deal out of the other sports. And, you got the same thing going on here. You got one of the original 6 franchises there. You got the New York Islanders, who have a gigantic fan base. Like you said, Philly's not that far away. New Jersey's not that far away. So it's a metropolitan, mega force when it comes to sports. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Fanatics doesn't have, that's the one license they don't have. Did you see a lot of their, and I can't even remember what it's called off the top of my head, their hockey product with the photos?
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Those oversized. None. There was
Nothing.
Of that. I saw none of that. So interesting that they didn't, or even stickers like I know Topps does. Nothing. It was, in terms of hockey, they left for the NHL to do their thing, but they did not. Topps did not promote, other than promoting, really, they were promoting heavily baseball, obviously. And then now they have the NBA license, so they're promoting their new basketball product. And then WWE and Fanatics had this big deal. So WWE, UFC, once again, that was massive. And wrestling fans are used to this kind of fan fest kind of thing. So people came dressed up. I have to say, I want to point out something. I didn't point out anything I wrote, but something I came home, I told my wife. She was like, how was Fanatics Fest? And I was like, interesting. There was one guy walking around, old school, dressed exactly like the Iron Sheik. And I thought, wow, the day after we bombed Iran, probably not the best costume to wear to Fanatics Fest. It was weird.
I myself can see the humor in that, but that's just me.
Right. I just thought, bad timing.
I'll tell you what, following along on social media, this looked like a WWE show. Everything I saw, it was panel discussions and different, wrestling stars showing up to different things.
Yes.
Every 5 seconds there was another video, it seemed like, of Cody Rhodes doing something. I saw him shooting the pucks in Crosby's washing machine or dryer or whatever. I saw him shooting hoops.
Yeah, John Cena was there. Yeah, John Cena was there, and SummerSlam. They did the official press conference for SummerSlam. So yeah, there was a lot of that. And then Tom Brady walked out, did the whole walkout with the smoke, and then he ripped up an Eli Manning jersey, and then Eli Manning showed up and like pushed him, and it was like totally contrived.
Geez.
But it was almost like they took the wrestling format and just spread it out across all sports.
I feel like this is, look, Fanatics has a thing, right? They've sold apparel forever. They're the everything supplier of apparel. Now they're in the card business. Part of their goal seems to be turning all of these sports fans that are buying jerseys and hats and everything else, and up until this point could have gave to what's over trading cards, trying to turn them into sports card collectors, which is why they've kind of hung on to that, hey, we have to have a card show as part of this kind of thing. But it seems to me that the card show part takes not just a back seat, but like in the trunk of the car. And we're talking like a 1970s giant Cadillac trunk to everything else. And it's like, what you see out there is really, on one hand, it's a cross section of all these different activities that are going on, and there's something for everybody. If you're the sports fan, you got all this stuff going on. If you have cards, you can go over there and do your thing, buy, sell, trade, whatever. There's all this stuff for kids to do. There's panel discussions. There's live things for adults and kids both. There's plenty of photo opportunities and autographs available if you want to fork out thousands of dollars to do so. But this is more of a con that happens to have cards in the back. That to me seems to be more what it is. Like, hey, come experience all this stuff, and we'll lead you into the back where, hey, that guy you just met over there, maybe you'll find some tables and buy a couple of his cards, or this, that, and the other. So that's the impression that I get.
Not that you're talking, that the best way I can put it, it's like a buffet. When you go to a buffet, you don't eat everything that's at the buffet. I mean, you try, but you look around and you pick what you like. And there's definitely, like, my daughter was like, I like soccer, I like this, I like music, I'm gonna go seek these things. She never went to the card show part. She thought she doesn't care, right? And someone like me is walking around the card show part. But the problem is it's so loud and so kind of crazy that maybe the card show part isn't as enjoyable as it would be at a normal card show. And all the cards are high end, so it's like a museum. And so if you're like new to the hobby, or let's say you want to get into the hobby, like they had a little table, a top setup where they were kind of doing an education into cards. Like you can go up to them asking questions like, how do I start collecting and what do I do? And they want to try to help people out, which I get, which is a great idea because that's how you 10x the hobby. You can't 10x it if you don't bring new people in. For example, in the Breakers Pavilion, if you walked in there, they gave you a free pack of cards and then they helped you break it with a breaker. And you can even record it if you wanted it, because the idea is, so everyone remembers the first pack they ever opened. And so maybe you're 10 years old and never opened the pack and you can do it now. Now, will that convert you? I don't know. But they think that having a show of this magnitude with both components in it, with the interactive stuff, in addition to the card part, memorabilia part, that some cross-pollination will take place. Now, I don't know how much of that you'll get. I mean, maybe 5%, 10%, 15%. Now, that could equal millions of dollars. But they clearly think that the Comic-Con version for sports is something they like. And look, last year they got 70,000 people to show up, and now they got 125,000. So they got more people this year. And year 3 will be even bigger, I'm sure, because lots of ads, lots of buzz on social media, and it grows year to year to year. And look, it's fun. It's something to do with the family. Like I see a lot of families go to it, mom, dad, kids, and maybe mom's into something, dad's into something, the kids are into something else. And you got something for everyone. The National is not like that. I don't see husbands and wives and their kids at the National, very few. Very, very few. Here, you could tell your kids, hey, you go over there. We'll meet up at the Topps booth like in an hour. Go do whatever you want. And so it's got some value add. Look, it's no different than any fan fest you might have been to at baseball teams do these, hockey teams do these. Like, it's not that unusual. It's just that they took all this stuff and put it all under the same roof for this sort of crazy experience. And the guy from Fanatics who does it used to run Comic-Con New York. So it's totally built on that model. And the goal, I think, for them is they want to make news. So they'll, for example, on Sunday, we talked about this a little bit before we recorded, Kevin Durant was being interviewed. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the interview, news comes across everyone's phone that he's been traded to the Houston Rockets. And he's just sitting there like, I mean, he obviously knew he was being traded. No one finds out, like, just sitting there. And everyone's like, just shouting at him. And then they're like, oh, breaking news. And of course, Fanatics puts out a Topps Now card of him sitting there with a smile on his face that he's been traded. And now everywhere you look, if you Google Kevin Durant, if you look on the news Google, he's been traded, every headline says Kevin Durant finds out he's traded during Fanatics Fest. Even at TMZ. If you're a TMZ reader, you're like, what's Fanatics Fest? So now you know about something you didn't know before. That's totally contrived, but that's the genius of Fanatics, right? They're able to get buzz and create news. It's a publicity stunt. Now, we're in the hobby, so we're not, this stuff is all up to us, like, extra. But there's something to say about the genius of selling jerseys and doing that kind of thing. That's their business model. You have to wonder, what do the cards have to do with it? And over the long term, how sustainable is it to have a show this big where the cards feel like you mentioned, kind of secondary? Even with the more integration, it feels forced as opposed to, oh yeah, of course I went to a card show and then I also kicked a soccer ball with Tom Brady. Like, it sounds totally normal, right? But it's a little bizarre. And so people go to Comic-Con, do this all the time. I mean, this year they really encourage people to get dressed up. We talked about this last year. Why would you get dressed up? Like, if you're the Iron Sheik, that's a costume basically. But why would I dress up like a baseball player? Why would I do that? And there were people I saw, adult men, who were dressed in like a full baseball uniform. And I thought, why would you do that? But people do whatever they want. And so everyone takes in this show a little differently. But like I said, the corporate areas really felt like the National to me. Then it makes me wonder, does the National need to up their game? Or what's the future of the National? And what's the future of this show? I mean, that's sort of, my takeaway is what's next?
Well, I think that if Fanatics wants to make collecting, what did you say? They wanted to make it fun? What was your word? I'm trying to think back what you said a few minutes ago about how they wanted to, I don't know, get more people into it or whatever. Like,
they will get more people into it, and they want to basically,
no amount of smoke machines is going to make me want to collect baseball cards or hockey cards. You know what I mean? Like, you want to collect, you collect because you like the thing that you're collecting. And I feel that, like, with all the smoke and mirrors and spectacle, that's going to get lost. Like you said, there was a card show, but it was hard to enjoy that because it was so loud. Right. And I can relate to that. I remember one year, I think it was at a national, actually, I was set up across from a breaker. Now they put breakers in a separate section, but they used to just put breakers in Gen Pop with all the vendors, right? And so I'd have this guy yelling and screaming and spinning a wheel and ringing a cowbell. And I'd be like, oh my God, am I going to have to listen to this all day? You know what I mean? And if it's busy, you don't notice it because you're talking to people and they're interacting. But, that just adds to it. There's so much noise going on. I don't need a WWE environment. And I don't know if kids do either. Like, you could get excited about the thing with the smoke and the explosions and the mirrors and the rock music and all that stuff. And I keep saying smoke and mirrors. I'm being facetious. Right. But, like, I think that if they really want to make collecting a thing for the younger generation, you got to make it cheaper and you got to make it fun. And I thought the idea of, you said, okay, they gave everybody a pack and they told them how to collect or how to do a break. And I just thought, well, first I thought, okay, that's kind of lame. Like, I'm going to show you how to open a pack of cards. I mean, every kid knows how to open a pack of cards. It's no different than opening a candy bar, right? And we've all been there, done that. But I could see now, oh, we're going to make a breaking video, right? Because what do kids want to do? They want to be a breaker, right? What did I want to do at 14, 15? I wanted to do a card show. I wanted to be a vendor. I did my first card show at 16 years old, bought tables and set up, right? And to me, that was cool. But if I was 14, 15 now, I could, and I'm watching breakers on YouTube. Yeah, I'd want to know how to do that. And I could see how that would be kind of fun to have a tutorial, or hey, we're going to do a live break video and you're going to open the pack. And so even though it's not for me, like you said, Clemente, you're 50, you're in a different world. I'm in that same world with you, but maybe a 15-year-old would say, hey, yeah, that sounds cool.
And these are the improvements they made this year, because last year, like I said, everything was 2 different shows. People would go in there and then pick, they would stay in one half of the show. This year, they kind of forced you to walk past the breaker pavilion, or they forced you to, engage with David Adams because they were right there, as opposed to, oh, they're in a corner somewhere. I mean, I talked to them, people at Fanatics, and they said that every booth was put in a place strategically, knowing that people would have to cut across certain areas and at least see what it was. Last year, it wasn't like that. So you could have avoided all the parts, like the card parts. You could have been well, I don't know what cards are. And the big talk last year, to a certain degree, even this year, people who had not collected in many, many years walk over to the card part and they're like, why are cards costing $10,000 here? What is this? Or why is the card $5,000 in a showcase? Because they don't have a dollar box, because everybody bought their best stuff. Every store, every dealer had their best stuff. And if you're going to pay $60 just to go to a card store or card,
you think that was a directive?
No, I think that people, because it was catered to the high end folks, nobody's going to spend $60 to go to a show to rummage through dollar boxes. That doesn't make any sense.
But they do at the National, because it's $20 a day. So
but
3 days would be $60.
Right.
Yes.
The National's everything. Right.
Yes.
Here you don't have everything. You have select things.
But you have to assume that these dealers are all the Fanatics chosen dealers.
Well, I don't know about that, but the dealers, I think, are dealers, but a lot of stores that I never see at any show in the New York area were here. I think it's because of allocation. They have deals with Fanatics, because,
and that's why I bring that up.
Yeah.
Are they contract? Does their Fanatics contract say that you will buy a table at this show? You will bring this type of product. You will do this. You will do that, and kind of basically set it up to say, hey, yeah, we want it to look like a museum. We want it to be the higher end stuff.
Well, that was the other thing too. So that's a good segue into another thing I want to talk about, which is on the lower level, they opened this Museum of Greatness, they called it. It was done with Sports Illustrated, and they had on display all this amazing stuff. Mickey Mantle rookie cards and the original photos used on those cards, Babe Ruth's bat. They had Ohtani, they had Messi, they had Tom Brady's, all Tom Brady's jerseys for every Super Bowl that he won. They had LeBron James, Michael Jordan. I mean, it was, amazing. And I pointed out in my Puck Junk piece that they couldn't find space for Wayne Gretzky, right? So it's you do a whole thing on the GOATs, and you can't do a Gretzky thing. Now, you might say, oh, Gretzky is Upper Deck. That's why. It's well,
I was going to say, they didn't want to display all that Upper Deck product.
But they displayed all the PMGs inserts from the 90s. Those are all Upper Deck. Caitlin Clark, all her cards, they're all Panini. They were all in there. Michael Jordan, he's Upper Deck. They had Michael Jordan stuff. So that didn't preclude them. It's almost as if, in that case, hockey was secondary in their mind. Also because they said to me, well, I didn't ask about Gretzky, but I asked, oh, what's the point of this exhibit? Just to say you have $200 million worth of stuff in one place with 25 armed security guards. That sounds amazing. But what's the point? Well, the point is, if young people walk through here, they might say, oh, you know what? Maybe I want to start collecting. Maybe I want to aim for something. It's oh, I can't afford the Jordan rookie, but maybe I want to get other Jordan cards. So everything they were doing was meant to spur interest among.
It's a springboard to something else.
Yes, kids, teenagers, to get them sort of to say it's not just about the jerseys and the autographs, but look, there's also cards. There's also other stuff that you can look at. And look, they admit that Fanatics is into e-commerce. They know that the future is digital. They understand that getting younger people to buy physical things is becoming much more complicated, and collect physical things is much more complicated. Now, our generation, we grew up with it. We have a connection to it. So they try to create something. Again, I don't know if it's going to work, but in the meantime, they realize that this is the way to do it, because they can buy all the ads in the world in magazines telling you to collect baseball cards or put ads on TV. That's not going to move the needle. Nothing. But they'll move the needle if, for example, you go to a show like this, you see all this great stuff, and you get caught up in the hype. And they're hoping that's what happens. It's a long-term goal. But I think Fanatics Fest NYC is going to become a normal part of the calendar. And last year it was in August, which was not a great time because after the National. This year it was in June. It was a better time because all the sports leagues are basically off. So you can invite NFL players, you can invite NHL players, you can invite NBA players, with the exception of the teams in the finals, right? And you can have some baseball players. But when you have it in August, for example, no NFL players were there last year because of training camp. So they're trying to figure it out. I think year 2 is better than year 1, but it's a lot of the same. And if for people like us who are a little averse to all the glitz and glamour and the strobe lights and the music, it's like, okay, I need more than this. Like I said, for hockey, I think it's becoming a better hockey show than the National, especially if you're into high-end stuff. But for the other sports too, it's become like very much like a buffet. You have to pick and choose what you want, but it could be very overwhelming. It could be very loud, and it's not for everybody. But this is the way younger people want it. I'm just curious to see how much of this rubs off on the National. If I'm one of the organizers of the National, do I go to this? Do I do recon? Do I say, hey, maybe in the future, maybe we can have MLB put up a booth? Why not? The Expos in Toronto is trying to do some of this, and I have to tell you, they haven't been as successful. Like they have the stage with the interviews, and that kind of works, like they have Fanatics Fest. But for example, at the Expo, and Sal was there, they had the people shooting pucks at a washing machine that just made noise and was very annoying to the people who had tables set up around it. So it didn't quite work there. So you have to sort of figure out how to put it together. It's not for everybody.
So you mentioned that it's a buffet twice, and by bringing up buffet, it reminded me, what was the level of body odor on these people here as there is at a normal like National, for instance? Hygiene a little better?
Way better. And
Okay.
the AC also way better. The air conditioning was way better.
I assume the Wi-Fi was probably also working, functional.
The Wi-Fi worked, though I did hear some dealers say they were having trouble early on, which made me think this is a problem at every show.
Yeah, it's going to be a logistical nightmare when you have 70,000 people. Look, from the get off my lawn people like me, all the contrived celebrity interactions and the contrived influencer videos, clearly fake, clearly staged, all of that kind of stuff. It's for entertainment purposes. It's for clicks. It's for views. And that's the thing. That's what the young people are watching. That's what's getting them hooked, is these videos. And plenty of kids are going to go to this and they're going to remember it. Like, I saw Tom Brady. I saw John Cena. I did this. I did that. They're going to remember those experience portions of it versus I walked around and saw 700 tables full of basically the same card graded over and over and over again. Rinse, repeat.
Always repeat.
Yeah, those of us that are going to card shows generally to expand our collections, and we're digging through quarter boxes and dollar boxes and discount boxes and trying to find cheap autographs and trying to find like weird uncut sheets of team sets from the 80s and stuff like that. That's us. That's what we do. This is kind of a bridge to like bridge us together. The problem is we see it as you're bridging the young people to the rich tycoons that we know 5 years from now probably won't be around anymore. And we're seeing, despite this cross-section of everybody, and I hope I'm wrong, but you have all the paid influencers and paid athletes that all of a sudden are now collectors, and you shows them buying cards that are $2,000, $3,000, $10,000. Well, I don't know that it's them buying the demand as much as they're buying the supply. They're contracted to be there. They're contracted to do certain things. They're getting involved with this stuff. Are they really into it? Are they being paid for it? So some people look at it, it's kind of disingenuous. But again, most entertainment things are. A lot of them are. Hollywood is based on that. It's entertainment. WWE is one of the biggest sports entertainment things in all of the universe. And I'm not going to call it fake, but it's entertainment. Yeah, it's entertainment. Yeah. So if you're going to get the young people to want to be interested in that back room, that trunk of the Cadillac, where they go and buy this stuff, you got to have the DJs at all the booths, and you got to have the lights, and you got to have the girls in bikinis saying, you should buy this car, because that's every car show, right? And it's the old Simpsons show. Do you come with a car? I guess we're at that point where in order to bridge that gap, we have to cater to the ADD.
it's not just bridge the gap. I mean, it's also everything under one roof is everything Fanatics has their hands in. So, for example, they had a whole section that was basically a bar, and it was a sports book. Like you have to be 21 years old. You would go inside. You could get a drink.
They had that there too. Cool.
And you could gamble. You can gamble. Like I didn't go in there because I don't gamble. I don't care. But like there are people sitting at a bar gambling, and I thought you paid $60 to come into this building to walk into this area so you can watch sports on TV and gamble on it. That seems weird, but that was.
I know they set up their own casino. Interesting.
Well, because they run a sports book, right? So whatever they run, it was there. And then you have all these other people that are involved, like the Premier League and the FIFA and Nike and all these other companies, Dick's Sporting Goods, because they want to get in on the action. They want to be able to say, well, we want to partner with you guys because we sell most of your stuff anyway, right? Like, there's all this cross-pollination. And for example, like you were saying, the football player who buys the baseball card, that's what they were doing. Like the NFL was selling NFL jerseys that look like soccer jerseys, but it was NFL teams and NFL designs. So this cross-pollination is constantly happening. Like why is PSG, which is a French soccer team, making football jerseys or baseball jerseys? Because everyone wants to get in on the American market, right? And so it was a lot of this stuff. Like why does the WWE make championship belts with the Patriots logo on it? Like, I don't know, or like the Yankees logo on it, because they can. And so,
I think a lot of sports teams have now relied on a wrestling belt for their player of the game. Like, who gets the belt for the Penguins or the Pirates or the Eagles or whatever, because they were the best player and they get the wrestling belt. If it's not a shovel, a construction hat, or something is equally like lame, but also oozing with masculinity, right? Like a shovel, a construction helmet, or an army jacket, or a wrestling belt, right?
Yeah. So. And the other thing too is when you walk around, you realize how big the sports is as a business, and how big it is in our society in terms of our culture, and whether that's cards or autographs or whatever, jerseys or hats, it's big. I mean, Lids was there because Lids is owned by Fanatics, right? Like it's like everything you see, right, is owned by Fanatics. And so look, they're a massive player, and this is what the future may be, but we'll see what year 3 brings, and what, I'm curious to see what the national looks like this year, just because it's fresh in my mind to compare it. Because last year, this was the first time. We had no idea what they were going to do.
Right.
Now we got 2 years of it, and we see some kind of pattern emerge. But I'm curious to see what it will do to influence card shows, and what card shows can do to influence Fanatics Fest. And hopefully it's a better experience for everybody. But it's popular, and the numbers were almost 40% better than last year. So that says something.
Yeah, that says a lot when a show goes from 75,000 to 125,000 or something like that.
Yep.
That's crazy. This has been a good comeback episode. I know we're always doing comeback episodes. We're like that rock band that keeps breaking up and then getting back together for a reunion tour. So the Puck Junk reunion tour for June 2025. Jensen, any last thoughts before we wrap this one up? Because it's been a long but good episode.
reunion tours and retirement tours, they aren't real because every band has 27 of them each.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like a sucker when I went to the last Rush concert in Chicago, only to find out that it wasn't the last Rush show in Chicago. And I'm like, all right, fell for it once, never falling for it again.
To piggyback off of that, my father-in-law says the same thing. A couple of years ago, there was an Elton John final tour. I was like, wow, he's finally retiring. And he's like, he's going on a final tour for the last 20 years, so don't believe it. So that's absolutely true. So
Kiss has been on 27 farewell tours.
Wow.
Which means we'll be back soon then. So that's what it means.
Well, they got to have the comeback tour then, the farewell tour, the comeback tour. Yeah. All right, well, folks, thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed this show, please be sure to like and subscribe. Please be sure to pass along the word to your hockey collecting friends about our podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by buying a t-shirt at shop.puckjunk.com. And if you like to read, check out the newsletter at puckjunk.com/newsletter. And until next time, collect what you like.